everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today we're going to find out, at least from my opinion, whether these ladies are gold digger murderers who killed their husbands. First of all, let me just say hello to everyone here. While you tell me whether you can see and hear me so I don't go on for no reason. Hi, Lisa S. and Lisa N. And Benny is here, and Carrie's here. Let's see who else is here. Molly's here. Florence is here. Anna's here. Gretchen wants to be here. She's going to a martial arts thing. I hope she gets back. Let's see who else. Christine is here. Annie is here. And whomever else is coming in. All right. You can see and hear me. All right. Good. I like to start on a good note. All right. So these are two really interesting cases. And I want to point out this case. She has been convicted. And there's no question that she killed her husband. The question is why she killed him, what was the motive, and what should she have been charged with? In other words, was it self-defense? Was it some crime of passion? Was it premeditated? I'm going to talk about that here. And then over here, this particular death of Gotti here, who was a boxer, Arturo Gotti. There are people that say she murdered him. There are people that say he committed suicide, and there's huge arguments. It's been to court, and there's all kinds of stuff surrounding that, and there's people investigating, lots of money being spent. So this is going to be, I have come to a conclusion on this case. I have made a determination. I'm going to take you through the crime scene evidence and do a crime scene analysis and show you what I mean and what I've come up with and why. Okay? Now, so this is going to be a little shorter. This is going to be a little longer. But for some reason, if you don't care about this case and you just care about this case, don't forget. You take your finger and you go like this across the screen. You just move it forward and you just go where you want. Because sometimes people say, I wanted to see part of your show, but I didn't want to see that part. I'm like, that's the advantage of YouTube. You can even see my show in 4 parts. If it's too long, you just watch for half an hour. You go away, you come back, and it starts right where you left off. So it works really well. And, oh, by the way, I do want to mention again, before I start, if you have never been to this channel before, please do like and subscribe. Also share with your friends. Hit the bell button so that you get notifications. And also, I just want to point out the people that are here today in the live chat, if you're like, oh, why am I not there? Why didn't I know about it? The live part of the show is only open to Patreons. That's because it makes a great community and keeps out crazy people. And and you can go below and you can click on Patreon and you can join in and support the channel as well. I also want to mention, I'm so excited. After 6 months of waiting, this channel finally got the super thanks button, which is below. It's a little $sign, which is kind of a hint. In other words, the channel does need your support. I'm highly demonetized. And so if you want to support the channel with a one-time donation, you just hit that little button and it works. So I'm excited about that because, helps the channel. All right. So anyway, or you can buy one of my books. That's below too. All right. That's that. I want to get to these really interesting cases. All right. Let me get back into the room now. All right. Doreen says, I'm excited. Both cases are new to me. Yes, these are cases where I'm going to tell you what I really think is happening with these cases is that we know a lot of cases because of, let's face it, Netflix and other documentary programs like Discovery and so forth. This particular case, this one just came out on Netflix. It's called what's her name again? Elize Matsunaga, that's her name, and it's called Once Upon a Crime. Okay, and then there's another. I have the links below. And this particular case was done in a 3-part series, and it is available on YouTube for free. So I have the link below on that one. And so what happens is, unless somebody's promoting this case for purposes of making a lot of money, or because the Innocence Project is behind it, or for whatever reasons, or somebody on YouTube gets interested, we sometimes don't know about these cases. I knew about neither of these cases. And these are also cases that occurred in Brazil. So, if you're not from Brazil, you may not be familiar with them. If you are, you're probably like, oh, these were huge cases. We know about both of these cases. but people from Brazil might not know about some cases in the US that are so big, or in the UK or Australia or wherever else in the world. So we're sharing here murders from around the world. Isn't that sweet? Okay, so, but they're both very fascinating cases, so I'm happy to do them. All right, let me talk about the first one. All right, so again, we already know she did kill him, but why? How? How did this actually happen? Why would she do such a thing? Let me tell you a little bit about her. All right, and about him. Okay, he's rich as crap, or was rich as crap. He was from a extraordinarily wealthy family with huge businesses. We're talking millions. We're talking millionaires, okay? This guy had a boatload of money, all right? Let me give you his name. His name is Marcos. Marcos Kitano Matsunaga, okay? Marcos, we'll call him Marcos. She's Elize Ramos Kitano Matsunaga, all right? We'll call her Elize. All right, so she was poor. She grew up in a poor area of Brazil. Her family didn't have a lot. She supposedly wanted to go to college and become a nurse, and she decided, well, I can't really afford that, so she decided to earn some money. And you can guess how she earned the money. Yes, she became what they call an escort, what I call simply a high-end prostitute. She went online. She had her pictures on one of those sites with all the other girls. And she said she was had about 10 dates a day sometimes. I'm like, that's a lot. Anyway, she was making pretty good money too. And one day, good old Marcos showed up. And before you think he's, let me just say this first. When I talk about people's behaviors, they immediately jump up and say, oh, you're victim blaming. No, I'm not victim blaming. I'm explaining. We as human beings make choices, some good, some bad. And other people in our lives make some good and some bad. So if you're, for example, you're a female in prostitution and you go to some isolated place to meet a John, you've made a poor choice of going there, and he's made the poor choice of killing you, okay? So he should go to prison for the rest of his life or get the death penalty for what he did to you, but you still, if you were a prostitute going in a dangerous situation, you have to understand you made a poor choice. Doesn't mean you deserve to get killed. Just means you made a poor choice. Okay, so we have some people here who make some interesting choices. So she meets Marcos. She meets Marcos, not any place but online. She meets him online. He goes to this site, and there's actually a name for him, and it's called HORE Rider. Okay? That's what it says. And I don't know what it is supposed to be in Spanish. In Portuguese. Sorry, he's in Brazil. Sorry. In Portuguese, but I'm going to guess I know what HORE means and what rider means. So the dude liked prostitutes. So he frequented that site a lot. He put up a ton of 5 stars. She was great. She was wonderful. I'll be back to see you again. So he really made use of prostitutes. So he met her through that site. And at some point, he became sort of smitten with her. And so they eventually got married. I'm going to explain some more of this later because it gets pretty interesting. All right, so they get married, and she gets to, as they said in the film, he really, what's his name? Oh, transformed her life into that of a princess. So he had so much money that his only rule was you got to quit the business. And she did. And his thing was he's got to quit going to the prostitutes, fair, all right. So it looked like they were a happy couple. They went all over the world. They traveled. There's these happy pictures of them. And everything seems really, really good until she's having trouble getting pregnant. And then, but while she's having trouble getting pregnant, supposedly she finds out he's cheating on her. What a surprise. And anyway, why is that a surprise? Because when he met her online and started dating her, he dated her for 3 years while he was married. He was already married and had a daughter, and so he was already cheating on his wife and daughter with a prostitute online. So not a big surprise that he didn't keep his promises. So after he married her, now he's fooling around. Big surprise. So anyway, she's thinking of divorcing him supposedly, and But then she finds out after doing, she's trying to get pregnant. She's having all these problems. She's going to the doctors and all this, getting very depressed. She finds out she's pregnant. And so they make a deal. She decides to stay with him. She says, no. Now, mind you, he's dead. So he can't tell you what's true and what isn't. Her claim is that, now, I'm having this, I'm going to have a baby. We're going to stay together. But you have to promise me no more cheating. And he said, okay, I'm not going to cheat anymore. So on they go with their relationship until she suspects he's cheating again. And there's a PI. She hires a PI, and the PI finds this video. And this is him with, guess who? Another girl from that site. So he's hooked up with another prostitute, and he's been seeing prostitutes, and now he's picked one out. And now he wants to go off with this one. All right? And you can see he's all huggy and kissy with her in the video. So he's moving on. All right. So I'm putting that background out there because this is about when things go bad. All right. So now what happens? Okay. So all of a sudden one night he goes missing. He goes missing. And so that's like, what happened to this guy? So interestingly, she tries to go to his parents, and say, well, he sent me this email, and she forged an email. she was quite talented in certain ways. Anyway, let me find that. Do I have the email here? Can't find it. Had an email. Anyway, she forged an email from him that he was still alive. She said he had they had a fight, and he got some money and clothes and left. And then she showed him the family the video of him cheating on her, and so she got them on her side. Except this thing happened. So a few days later, whoops, that's not what I want to hit. Okay, go away. So in a few days later, what happens is, I'm sorry, a few days. I'm not exactly sure. When did they find her? Let's see. Not sure when they found this. Anyway, they found these plastic bags. With his body in it, in parts. There were a bunch of plastic bags with his body in them. And they were about 20 miles away from where they lived. Chopped up. So now they know the guy's dead. All right. So could she get away, if she committed this crime, could she get away with it? Well, here's some of, I tell you, some people, when they commit crimes, make really dumb errors. And you know how I always talk about moving bodies? And one of the things I always say about moving bodies is the reason you move a body is because where the body is would implicate you. In other words, if it's in your house and the police have to show up and see the body in your house, you got a problem. If you live right next door, you might want to move the body away so the police aren't looking in the neighborhood. Well, she apparently shot him in their apartment. And now she had a body up in the apartment. So here's what this is what the police saw, which made it just pretty clear and easy. So anyway, where is it? What happened here? What in the world happened to my picture? Oh, I'm so mad now where my picture went missing. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, guys. My picture is gone. Let me find it. Maybe I put it here. Let's see. What did I do with it? Well, that is bizarre. Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to find my picture because it's going to bug me if I don't find this picture. So what happened was, give me 1 second here. I will find it. It's not a good picture, but it's an important picture. Here it is. All right. There we go. See him? He's in the elevator. This is the last day he was seen. Here he is. He's bringing home a pizza. Okay? Isn't that nice? He's getting in the elevator. He's going up. And I think they lived like in the penthouse. They're like rich as crap. So, huge place. He's going up with the pizza. But guess what happens, folks? He doesn't come down ever again. You see? There's a slight problem when the guy's never seen leaving the building again. If he was supposedly just getting his stuff and going away, why isn't he seen? Well, it's because of this. You see that? She's looking back there. She's blocking the door open with a suitcase. And you see how many suitcases she has? That's a bunch of suitcases. Because he's in those suitcases. Yes, he is in those suitcases. So they find him there. And then on top of it, this is another interesting point. These are his pants and shirt that were found with those bags. And that's exactly what he was wearing at the time. So, I mean, there's no way she's not going to get arrested for this crime. I mean, it's clear. She shot him and she cut him up and she moved his body. That's not in question at all. So the question is, what happened? Why did she do it? So what do you all think in the chat room? While I'll just stop in here for a minute. Anybody got a theory on what's happening? Do you think it's self-defense? Do you think it was a crime of passion? Do you think it was premeditated? And why do you think she did it? Why? Why do you think she did it? Why did she think she knocked him off? Anybody have a clue? Because it's really funny when she gets in court. Of course, her lawyers come up with a self-defense argument right away. That's definitely what they're going to come up with, because she's got to look sympathetic. She's got to look like, she didn't mean to do it and all this kind of stuff. So, he said her demeanor was incredible. It's very weird if you watch this show. It is very weird. Premeditated all over cheating. K-Rob says she was mad at his cheating. He bought the wrong pizza. That could send me into a rage, Just a warning in case we're ever together, don't buy the wrong pizza. That's great, Ann. Money is the motive. Now, this is a very interesting point because, yeah, she gets a lot of money out of this. She does. But there are people point out, on the other hand, the divorce, she's going to make a fortune in the divorce as well. It's not like she's going to be left high and dry. She's going to be very wealthy even with a divorce. Yes, this is correct. I don't think she needed life insurance. They were so rich. Here, let's see. Molly said she did it for getting even and getting money, and I guess she forgot about the cameras. Okay, getting even, rage type thing, but also I'm going to do you in. Benny says, I agree with Carrie. She was afraid he would leave her for another woman. Oh, she did. Okay, there's definitely evidence he was going to leave her. I mean, the writing was on the wall there. He left his first wife for her. He was about to leave her for the next one. There's no question. And, having a daughter with him obviously didn't stop him from leaving the first daughter. So he'll leave the second daughter. So that's not an issue. Yeah, I believe, I agree with you, Benny, and Carrie. She was afraid he would leave her for another woman. Not even afraid. She knows he's going to leave her for another woman, and she would lose her lifestyle. That's an interesting point as opposed to just the money issue. She will have money if they divorce, a lot of it, but she will lose the lifestyle she got being his wife. He was just going to be head of this huge company. I think he was taking over. His family was, extraordinarily well known. In other words, all the fancy places you can want to go, and to be that person, the wife of, and have all those benefits, that will be gone. She will have to just live her life differently. And some people would think that's fine, but they didn't have a son, they had a daughter. But we don't know. There was no statement that he was threatening to take the child away. Some rich are never rich enough. Okay. Yeah, yeah, daughter, great. He would have left the current lady in his life now for a new lady. Yeah, I mean, lady number 3, ought to figure that out. But, she's a prostitute too. So, somebody's coming out and they're coming to you and they're going to take you out of a life, which is, you may be making a lot of money if you're a high-end call girl, but you got to sleep with an awful lot of people in one day, okay? Or stay overnight with them and do their bidding. It's not as pleasant a profession as people try to pretend it is. I mean, it's a lot of grotesque people you have to be with in that profession. You risk certain dangers in that profession. There's lots of things. So if you have the choice between doing that and marrying a millionaire or billionaire, I forgot what he was, yeah, you might just take the money, the guy with the money and the fancy lifestyle without having to work so darn hard, So, yeah, but she's probably going to get that. You would think she killed the golden goose, but she didn't lose. Yeah. So this is what's interesting, Christine. a lot of people think she wouldn't have committed this on purpose because she'd be killing her source of money. But she wouldn't have. She would have gotten money from the divorce. But she did lose it all killing him. That is true. Because in her anger, or whatever reason she did it for, she did lose everything. Okay, so that is true. Red Rum says, I do see a problem, a pattern. Do I get a prize? Well, the prize is you get to be the next one. No. It's weird that prostitutes think perverts will stay with them for life and not continue messing around with other prostitutes. Well, there are those who might seek out occasional prostitute for comfort or for loneliness when they're traveling, something like that, and can fall for somebody. This guy was, as he said, an HORE writer, and he was prolific with the ladies on that site. So the dude was not, I'm going to say he gets bored easily. Hi, Martin. Welcome. Okay, so now let's go to what actually happened at the crime and what I think occurred. Okay, so let me go here to the crime scene issues. All right. Hold on a second. Where am I at? All right. So, all right, I'm going to put this one up behind me. All right. Now, what happened here is that they're up in the apartment. Here's her story. And I say story because that's what it is. We don't know if the story's true or the story's not true. She says that I guess he brought the pizza up, and then they had this discussion, and she showed him what she knew about him cheating on her, and he got angry, and he slapped her. Now, we don't know that he slapped her. People say they've never seen him be violent ever in his life. Doesn't mean he couldn't have slapped her that night. But we don't have any truth. We don't have any proof of that. That's what she says. No proof. Did he slap her or didn't he? I don't know. Let's say he did slap her. Slapping somebody is not really proof that your life is in danger. It isn't. Now, she will say, let's see, where does she say this? Oops, oh, sorry. Oh, I forgot to do this one. Okay. By the way, one of the other reasons they pretty much figured out she could have chopped him up was look at this picture with her. Why my picture's missing today? This is so weird. You know, every once in a while I have pictures that don't take for some reason, and it drives me crazy. I put them up there, and then when I come back, they've actually gone missing, and I have no idea why. And I have a bunch of these that went missing in this show. So I'm going to find it. I'm going to put it up here because I think it's kind of an interesting picture. Hold on a second. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. All right. There we go. So this, check out this picture. If it shows, maybe that's why it didn't show up. Maybe it's not working. All right. Interesting. Hold on. Okay, here they are. Oh, you see they have those big guns. There's an elk, some kind of elk or something under there. They were huge hunters. He hunted, and he said to her, do you want to hunt with me? And she said, yeah. And he's like, oh, cool, a woman who likes to hunt. So she did hunt with him, and she was very good at the hunting part. And then she said this, which I thought was just kind of funny. You can't cut it in the wrong place, because if you do, it gets ruined. I'm going to say she knew how to chop up a body. So, yeah. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. This also, by the way, they charged her with what they call homicidio triplamente. I think it's homicidio triplamente. Triple homicide is what they gave her. And it was like excessive cruelty, and I don't know what the first one is because I can't read Portuguese. And then the bottom one, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it, and the victim's inability to defend themselves. Okay? In other words, if she had a gun, he couldn't defend himself against that. Let's see what. So anyway, she concocted a story, this guy said, that would prove it was a crime of passion. And when she got into court, she looked so sad. So terribly sad. Wasn't that sad? Okay, so there she is, all looking pitiful. And she's the whole thing is she's looking like she's, just so, how did this happen? How could it all end up this way? we were so in love and then it all went wrong and so on and so forth. But, okay, let's go back to the crime scene. So supposedly she claims they were sitting at the table, I guess with that pizza, and she showed him the video and, look, I know you're cheating, and then he slapped her and she became in fear of her life. That's her claim. She's claimed, I don't know if that's the one. Anyway, she's claiming she's in fear of her life, okay? So, yeah, let me see if it's over here. Oh, yes, I was afraid of what he would do to me. I was afraid of what he would do to me. Now, she's looking over my shoulder now. It's kind of creepy. Anyway, I'm gonna look like I got blonde hair again. Oh, great. I was afraid of what he would do to me. Oh, really? Okay, so that's what you're saying. He slapped me. He slapped you one time. So after knowing him for this long, you thought he was going to, either you had to believe he was going to beat you or kill you. So she says she left the room. So she's down here at this part. She leaves and she goes up here and goes and gets a gun. Then she comes out and now he's supposedly approaching her, you see. And now she's in fear of her life. So she shoots, okay? Now, the defense showed this, and I think this one's gotten lost too, because it's just weird. Things have just gone missing. Oh, there it is. Oh, good. Oh, okay. Now, what they're saying is, let me explain why they're saying this. All right. So she shoots him. That's her claim, that she shot him because she was scared. Okay? They got into this fight. He slapped her. She went and got a gun. She came back, came out, and he came at her, and she shot him. That was her self-defense claim originally. But there was this problem. He was shot in the left side of the head in a downward thing. So it's like, okay, so he's coming at you. You're shooting, and he's taller, so you're shooting. How are you doing it? Is that really happening? Or did you just walk up to him while he's sitting down at the table and just shoot down into the side of his head? Much more likely. And that's what the prosecution's going for. But the defense has to come up with something. So they come up with this scenario. He sees it with a gun, so he ducks. He ducks. He's like, no! And he tries to duck. But he doesn't duck far enough down, so he gets shot in the head. Okay. I'm not buying that one for a minute. That's just not happening. So I'm going to go with the prosecution's idea, where basically she came in and she shot him. Now, and he had no chance to defend himself because she had the gun, he didn't. And I think he might not have been aware that she was going to do it, or this is what often happens. There's a fight and they go, you can do whatever you want. And then you're looking down at the table eating your pizza, and the person comes back and says, well, I can do what I want. Boom. And you're dead. That's what I think happened. I think, first of all, she went and got the gun. There was no reason for her to get that gun. She wasn't in any kind that I can see of any proof of true danger. So, even if a person slaps you, I don't think your initial response should be to go and get a gun. Okay? There should be something else in there somewhere. He starts beating on you and you escape and get a gun. I get it. But I don't even believe the slap thing. And obviously the slap was so limited, nobody saw marks on her face or anything. So don't do that. And you go get a gun. And I always remember this one story, which I thought was just the funniest story. I was on a bus, a Greyhound bus in the U.S., and this guy got out, sat down next to me, and he said he just got out of prison. He'd been in there for a long time for murder one. And the guy next to him says, well, why is that? And he says, well, I came back from Vietnam, and I went into this bar, and this guy was there, and he said, the woman you were with is now with me. And I got really angry. And I said, and then I went out to my vehicle, got my gun, and came back, and I killed him. And he said, and you know what I learned from that? And the guy's like, well, don't kill people? And he's like, no, man, you want to have the gun on you, because then when he says he's with your girl and you pull out the gun, you don't get murder one because it doesn't look premeditated. But if you go out to your truck and get the gun, it doesn't look good because you have time. And premeditation doesn't have to be like you planned it for weeks and weeks. It can just be that you had enough time to make a choice to walk away, to get that gun and come back and kill. And so that's premeditation. And that's what they got her on. So the question as to why she would do this, in my opinion, he was going to leave her. She was going to lose a lifestyle. But even more than that, I think she was truly, truly angry that she had gotten him. Not necessarily that she was losing her life. Well, she was losing her lifestyle. That too. He did give her a lifestyle that was pretty cool, and that was going to go away. And he had the audacity to dump her for another prostitute. I'm sure, I'm going to say that ticked her off. In other words, he was bored with her. He's finished with his toy. He's dumping it. And I'm guessing there was a good deal of rage there. All kinds of rage. I'm losing my lifestyle. He's dumping me for another woman. He's treating me like a whatever, all this is, I'm sure she was extremely pissed. And she decided she was going to pay him back. He wasn't going to just get away with this stuff. He wasn't going to be able to dump her and walk away and get what he wanted. He had so much money, dumping her and giving her a little bit of, alimony is not going to do him in. He's going to get what he wants, and she's going to be dumped. Now, I'm not saying maybe they had a terrible relationship after a while. Maybe she had severe problems, narcissism problems, and he was fed up with her. I'm not saying, I don't know who's the good guy or bad guy in that relationship. I don't know if there's a good reason for him to dump her, but I believe that's the reason. She was really ticked that he was going to dump her for a number of reasons, and went and said, you're not gonna get away with this. And when she shot him, she may have thought she could get away with it, because a lot of times people who are also highly narcissistic, like they really are, they can't take a slight like that. And then they think they're going to win. They're going to get you back and they're going to win. And I think she thought she could, but she just wasn't so bright about the camera system, and other issues. And so she's in prison. And now there's this whole documentary from Netflix is very, oh, poor dear. They should let her out because she's a nice person. She should see her daughter. And one of the funny things on this show, not that one. The last thing she says, well, not the last thing in the show, but the thing that really struck me, she says, "I would like my daughter to know what really happened." I'm like, what really happened is you shot her dad and cut him into pieces and tossed him in the woods. That's what really happened. That's what you want your daughter to know? I mean, I don't know what other story you've got that's going to make her any happier, I mean, I think that pretty much says it all, So, fascinating case in the sense that, there's, what is it, the woman scorn type thing? I think this is a woman scorn really, really well. Could be a bit like the defense of Jody Crazy Arias. Yeah, that might be true. That might be true. But it's not, see, there's no such real thing as a crime of passion. I've always thought that was incorrect. And there's actually a book which from one of my favorite people. I'm going to sit here and blank now. But it's like the case against there's such a thing as a crime of passion. I've got it on my shelf and I'm just blanking. Because a crime of passion always tries to indicate that you couldn't help yourself, that you were so emotionally overtaken that you just lost your mind. But there is premeditation there. So what happens is, even in a crime of passion, we don't do things we aren't willing to do. I'm not willing to kill people. I don't care, well, in a self-defense mode, yes. But if somebody cheats on me, I'm not killing them. I may be angry. But, I'm not going to kill them. I'm not. I would not kill somebody. So there's always thought before the actual act. And she had time to think about it. So it wasn't so much a crime of passion, but a crime. She was angry that she lost. She was angry that he was going to replace her. People get angry over lots of things. You don't get to kill over them. So, yeah. I'll point that out. No. I want to point that out. I'm glad you brought that up. All right. Why not shoot him and then call the cops and claim self-defense if it was true? Oh, yes, that is true. Chopping him up shows guilt. Well, chopping him up, I've seen some cases where the person panics and does that because they think they will go to prison, regardless of whether they're truly guilty or not. However, the reason she knew she didn't want to call the cops because she knew she didn't kill him in self-defense. Yes, I think you're right on that. That she knew that she had shot him while he was not even probably looking at her. That's that thing about her shooting him straight on while he's coming down the hall. Oh, she knew because she was there that did not happen. So when she shot down at him, there was no self-defense argument there. Now her defense lawyers came up with that garbage later because they're defense lawyers, but her, no. She knew better. She absolutely knew better, and that's why she didn't call the police because she thought she would go down, and she thought if she could get rid of his body, and they would think he went off someplace and got killed, then they'd never look at her. But darn those cameras. You can't have a guy going into the condo and not coming out of the condo. That means he died in the condo. That's kind of funny. So that's what I wanted to say about that. So let me go on to the other case. And I just think, but that's a really boring documentary, by the way. So I don't know that's worth looking at, except to see her demeanor, because it is really weird. Okay, so let's take a look at the other lady. And her name is Amanda Gatti. And her story is this. All right. She got married to... Okay, I'm hoping all these pictures are here because I'm having a bad picture day. All right. She met this guy. His name is Arturo Gotti. He was a very big boxer. He won titles. He was, really, really, really great boxer. Really great boxer. Had quite a long career. But she saw his last fight, and then he didn't fight after that. He was on his way out. It's just one of those things where, he got to this point where, he wasn't winning as much, and at a certain point, you just know. And he said, after his last fight, he said, I'm going to come back to the fights, but as a spectator. Now, the problem was, a lot of boxers have a hard time transitioning from boxing life to being in the public eye all the time to, not fighting anymore, not having the entourage. It's a tough life for some of them. My brother-in-law, Simon Brown, is also a professional boxer, won a couple titles himself. Well-known boxer, Simon Brown, if you want to look him up. He did transition and is now a trainer of boxers, which quite often that's what boxers do. So, but he had some problems. But anyway, she met him, and let me tell you just basically about them. So they got married, and they had a cute little boy. They had a little child. Now they weren't married very long when he died. So that's an interesting little. See, my pictures are missing today. That is so weird, huh? That is fascinating. Yeah, I've had like a whole pile of pictures just go missing. Okay, anyway, here. All right, here we go. Now here he is with her and their baby boy. Okay, so now at this point you'd think they're looking happy, but it's not quite the way things go. Anyway, so what happened was basically this. All right, let me just tell you, I just wanted to understand their background. All right, in 2006, Arturo Gatti had been crowned welterweight champion and amassed a multi-million-dollar fortune. So here's the gold digger issue again, when Amanda Rodriguez, then a struggling Brazilian immigrant, met him while they were walking their dogs. She said she had no idea who he was. I remember when I found out he was a fighter, I told him, "Oh, I thought you were even a movie star, but not a fighter because you're so cute." And so he was but he was a fighter. And then let's see, Toro had won 40 fights, 31 by knockout, and then he ended up breaking his hand a bunch of times, and then he finally had to quit. Okay, let me move on down here. And they asked Amanda if she'd ever seen him fight. She said just the last one. Now, in July 2007, that's 2 years before his death, he was now 35 years old, and he was plagued by injuries. And that was the end of his career right there. And she said, I remember he was so sad. And he says, baby, I wanted you to be the champion's wife. And I said, baby, you're always going to be my champion. Now, mind you, he's dead. We don't know the story she's telling has any truth in it or not. Okay, so anyway, despite his newfound love, retirement from boxing hit him hard. He partied hard and heavy. All right, so he drank a lot. He was an alcoholic. He had his license taken away for drunk driving. He also had gotten fights with people. So anyway, in 2007, 1 month after he walked out of the ring for the last time, he married 21-year-old Amanda Rodriguez. He was very romantic, she said, and the love for me was like crazy love, you know. When he retired, we were both very happy. The day we married, he already wanted to have kids. He had a daughter from a previous relationship, and a year after the wedding, she had a baby boy he always wanted. His son meant the world to him. That's his friend saying that. All right. However, there was a problem with ongoing alcohol and drug abuse and domestic violence. And this is documented. Amanda said he took retirement hard. He got depressed. He didn't know what to do. He started drinking a lot. Let's see. So she was there. His friends were saying basically he's alcoholic. He was convicted on drunk driving charges in 3 different states, lost his license. His drinking led to fights with police officers, and that another confrontation left a Florida man brain damaged. So we're, when we're looking at people, sometimes, here they are, this sweet couple, they both have they had friends, people who loved them. I don't disbelieve that they didn't love each other, but they had issues. And he had a severe problem with retirement. And it is documented by everybody that he had drug and alcohol problems and he was violent. All right. So she was living with him, and it said she got the brunt of it. This is not from her. This is from other people. She said, there was the man I fell in love with, the funny, romantic, lovely husband and father. And then there was the person he would change into when he drank and was drunk. He would become aggressive and nasty, but he was a completely different man when he was drinking. And I believe that could be very possible. 6 months into his marriage, they were on vacation in Hawaii. Arturo was cited for domestic violence. And she had gotten pregnant. He didn't punch her, she said, while she was pregnant. And then people said that she was nasty toward him, that she had gotten really angry with him. She would hurt him, saying things like, you're good for nothing, you're a bad fighter, you embarrass me, you're a druggie, you're an alcoholic. And she said the only reason we used to fight was the fact that he would drink. And so things would get out of control. And she was asked, would you hit him? And she said, no, but I used to throw things at him. When I was mad, it happened. I'm not going to lie to you, but I never touched my husband. She tried to help him, said another friend, and that's not her friend, those are his. I was there when she tried to help him. But Arturo wouldn't listen, and things got really bad, and they were fed up with each other, but they decided to do one of those last trips. Apparently, in late May of 2009, he decided he's going to take her on a trip, and maybe they could patch things up. And so they went to Europe for 2 weeks, and then they flew to Brazil for a family graduation. Amanda says it was like a second honeymoon, but Arturo's friends think he had reasons for patching things up. His son, he was scared to lose his son, okay? And he said, he told his friend, I got to stick with this marriage because I don't want to lose my son. All right. Now, some people say if he didn't have money, she wouldn't have even been with him. Okay. I don't know if she's a gold digger or not. Regardless, there were lots of issues, okay? Lots of issues. But now they're in Brazil. What happened in Brazil? And this is just a strange crime that has been very confusing to people. And yeah. All right. So let me see. All right. Let me go out to what happened. All right. They were staying in this hotel. And let's see, it's right here. So they were staying at this place. Okay. There was more than one level there. Okay, and they were staying here, and they went out for a family dinner in a public location. He got really drunk, and he got really mean, and this is fact. And Amanda finally said, okay, if you're going to stay, I'm going to go because I can't take this anymore because it was a very ugly fight, right? And so the guy asked her, I think it was in the show, how ugly a fight was it? Well, apparently so ugly that a crowd gathered. And according to police reports, so now I love this because this isn't just a television show saying this or Amanda saying this. This is police reports. Arturo threw her to the ground. Police videos show the injuries to her arm and chin. Did he hit you? No, he didn't hit me, but he threw me on the floor and I hurt my arms. And they asked, how did he throw you? And she says, I don't want to talk about it. Okay, let me show you the injury she had that night. Okay. So this is an injury. Oh man, it's not a very good picture. Crap. It's a thing on her chin. And then there's this damage on her arm. See? So she got tossed, okay? The girl got tossed on the ground. Then he just took the baby in a stroller and left. And then he returned a few minutes later. The angry crowd began throwing things at him. Now, this is important to understand because we're talking about a lot of the injuries we're going to see at the crime scene that I think confuse a lot of people. Witnesses say he got hit in the head with a rock, even a bicycle, bleeding from the head and the shoulder. And furious, he fought back. They described him as the Incredible Hulk. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. Amanda made her way back to the condo. When Arturo and the baby caught up, she said there was a cut on the back of her husband's head, okay? Which also a cab driver said there was bleeding. In the cab, there was blood on the seat. He said, look what happened to me. I got in a fight with 4 people in the street. So anyway, then he saw what he had done to her, and she said, okay. No, he's like, who did this to you? And she's like, you. Anyway, she said, I'm done. Took the son and went to bed, all right? Before I got to the stairs, he looked at me, and he was sad, and he just said, so I guess it's over, huh? And I looked at him and said, yeah, it's over. I can't take any more. So what's the next thing that happened? So she says she gets up, the baby wakes up, she goes down to the kitchen area, she gets a bottle. She saw him lying over there on the floor. And she said, and this is very interesting, she wasn't alarmed because she said, when he gets drunk, he passes out places and he just lays wherever he lays. And she saw him on the floor. She's like, he's drunk, he's asleep. And she goes back upstairs, comes back later, and he's still there on the floor. And then she went over to him and touched him, and he was cold. And then she shook him. He didn't wake up. He was obviously dead. And then she called the police. On the floor nearby, his body was a broken strap from Amanda's purse. Okay. And she knew right away, she believed he had killed himself because she was the only person in the apartment and nobody else was there. All right. Let me show you the crime scene. Okay. Let's go to the crime scene. So the crime scene is this. This disappears on me. I'm going to be mad. Okay. Oh, thank God it didn't. All right. So this is the downstairs here. All right. So he's lying here, and there's these stairs that go up here to the second floor. And there looks like there's some blood around here. And this is going to be important later. All right. Here he is, and it's so kind of over there. And the belt, the strap from her purse is on the floor. Find that picture. Oh, here it is. Here it is on the floor. There's a strap from her that he supposedly hung himself, took that off her purse and used it. And on the counter, there's a couple bloody rags. It looks like a knife sitting there, and it looks like the card to get into the place. All right. So now, originally, what happened is the police arrested her and charged her with homicide, and they basically thought. She had a gash in the back of the head. They thought it was the knife on the counter. They saw him on the floor, and they arrested her. And they said, we got her. We got her. Okay. And then the autopsy came back in. They did some more review of the case, and they let her go and said, no, it was a suicide. Now she walked free. And now the question is, could this be a suicide, or is this an obvious homicide? So I'm going to go to, they hired, hold on a second, cancel. Oh, I almost left the site. I hit the wrong spot. Comments, I was looking for comments. All right. People are saying there's something wrong in the chat. That's weird. Let me just look up here. So the chat was stagnant. That's weird. I wonder what happened there. Is everybody back? Okay. I don't know what happened with the chat. That's weird. Every once in a while, I didn't do it this time. This is not my, I technically can't do anything to the chat. So if it went bad, I don't know. Okay, I'm hoping you can all hear me now and you are able to comment. All right, so so what happened was the family, a portion of the family, did not believe. Is everybody here with me on the second part? On the second part of the show, besides, because everybody's back on the pizza on the last case. Can you are you here now with the other case, the one behind me with the? Everybody has the quiet. Okay, now they're not gonna. Okay, I'm gonna help explain this case, and this is the most fascinating part of it all. Okay, all right. So the family says, "Oh, this is ridiculous. There's no way this was a suicide. First of all, he's not suicidal. Secondly, I'm sure she killed him for the money. And again, we have the same problem we have with the other case. She would make a lot of money in a divorce regardless. But supposedly he had signed something 3 weeks prior, giving her all the money if he croaked. So kind of suspicious, huh? So, yeah, Martin says, we're quiet because we're just gripped by the profiling. Hey, I haven't profiled yet. Okay, now I'm going to profile this crime. So the family thinks she was, because of that thing that was signed 3 weeks prior, that she was going to, get all his money, and she premeditatedly planned this and killed him off. Okay? She did it. All right. And this was no suicide. And so they put together a team, and a big team, by the way. And let me see who was on the team. So they thought the Brazilian police bungled the investigation, and they got this guy. His name was Ciolino. What was Ciolino? I'm trying to just remember who that was. Okay, they enlisted private investigators, Paul Ciolino, I'm not sure that's how you pronounce his name, and Joe Mora. They both worked in the past for CBS News and for 48 Hours Mystery, but not in this case. All right, so they hired private investigators, and they got in there and they started saying, this is not a witch hunt against her. There's evidence that she committed this crime, and this in no way could possibly be a suicide. Now, I also want to point out who else was involved in this. They had Cyril Wecht, pathologist. He also said it's a homicide. So he's involved in saying it's a homicide. So you have two private investigators, well known, says it's a homicide. Dr. Wecht says it's a homicide. Brent Turvey, who I do promote his books, although I'm not fond of his profiling methodology. No, I'm fond of his methodology, not some of his conclusions. Let me put it that way. I love his books, so I'm going to promote his books. But sometimes when he takes cases, I'm like, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. Brent Turvey says, the blood tells us everything we need to know, because you see there's blood on the floor there, right? He says the blunt force injury to the back of the head was most likely inflicted in the apartment. And why do we know that? Because of the blood flow. Okay? The blood, these experts say, is proof that he was attacked in the apartment. All right? Okay. And Turvey also says, why didn't they test these blood on these pieces of cloth up here on the counter? Okay, that's a good point. The police should have done that. The police also moved a few things. When they arrived at the scene, people pushed things around, so things aren't necessarily where they were when somebody arrived either. Okay, so we have to take into account maybe some things that the police investigation should have done, and also the fact that the crime scene may have well been disturbed, and therefore you're making conclusions based on what you're seeing and not what could have been there at the time. Okay, I want to point that out. Now, I want to point out something else when people are hired. I say it over and over again. When you hire private investigators, criminal profilers, and pathologists, and the TV people get involved, or the defense team gets involved, or the Innocence Project gets involved, or whoever's involved, and you hire people, and especially millionaires. When millionaires hire people, they got money to spend. They can spend as much money as you'd like them to spend. And it's kind of funny because this team, they did a bunch of studies. And they put together this huge report, The Death of Arturo Gatti. Look at that report. Look how thick it is. Oh my God. And they said, that police department only spent like 8 hours on this case. We spent hundreds of hours in like 6 to 8 months to figure this out. And I'm like, Because, I kind of just spent the last few hours and I'm coming to a conclusion. So, okay, I would have been a lot cheaper, but you're getting money to come up with the answer somebody wants. And in this case, the family, at least a portion, most good portion of them, interesting enough, his own brother thinks that he committed suicide, and is not against Amanda. He actually says that there's reports that say he had a psychiatric consult, and the defendant attempted suicide by overdosing. So he had a history of trying to commit suicide. His brother says he was severely depressed. He thought he was losing Amanda and his family, and his life. He didn't have his life as a boxer, and he had horrible drug and alcohol problems. So his brother is not necessarily agreeing with the family, but the family is hiring this massive team. And when you're hired, what I do when I'm hired is I basically say, look, I will do an initial review, and I'll tell you if there's any reason to spend money on me. And that's not a good way to make money. It's not. I don't work for defense attorneys very often because I'll tell them the truth, and they don't necessarily like the truth. And if I wanted to go ahead and just make up a whole bunch of stuff and do a massive amount of experiments to prove things, because that's how you make money, then I'd do that. So anyway, they went about trying to prove that this was a homicide. Now, how did they do that? All right, they have a couple of different things that they did, and I think they're very interesting. But I questioned them. Now, here's one of the things they did. All right. They got there's some guy here, and supposedly they hung this dummy up there, and they're trying to prove that if he hung himself from those stairs, remember what the stairs look like? I'll put them over here again. See, he supposedly got up on a chair and hung himself on one of these, things here, and then he kicked the chair out, and then he hung. Now, first of all, they're saying that belt that was attached to the purse wouldn't have held him very long, and he would have just fallen. And then they said when he fell, he would fall straight down like that. Boom, 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 right on the floor. He would not end up over there with his head underneath this piece of whatever that is, the island. That wouldn't have happened. Okay? Sounds pretty good. I can see their point. So what they're saying essentially is this. Here's the story that they're giving. Okay? I'm going to tell you their story first, and then I'm going to analyze it according to what I see. They're basically saying the two of them were home. Now, mind you, he's a boxer, and she's a small woman. So in order for her to do this to a boxer, there's one of two things have to be true. Either he has to be so incapacitated that she can do things to him that he can't fight back. Okay, so that was one of their theories. There's no proof that he was so incapacitated that he wouldn't notice a knife being cut across his neck. And why would that even be done? I don't know. And then on the back of his neck, and then she would take the handle off her purse and tie it around his neck, and she would strangle him, and he would just lie there until he dies. And then he would, I guess the blood from the cut would be on the floor, and he'd be just lying there over there. All right, that's their theory on how she did it. Except that enough people have said, we kind of find it hard to believe that she could accomplish that. So there had to be a third person involved. So they're like, yeah, there could be a third person. No, there can't. No one else ever entered that apartment. No one. There's proof of that. No one came in and out but the two of them. And besides which, what happened? They went home at 2 o'clock in the morning and she managed to round up somebody and say, hey, come on over and help me kill my husband? Really? Nobody else was involved. So that's just garbage. So she would have had to do this alone. She's like 100 pounds or whatever she is. She's a thin little woman. And she's a big guy who's beaten her before. Yes, if he were totally incapacitated, she could kill him. That's true. But is this what the scene shows? Now, they say he couldn't have hung himself from there. First of all, they said the purse couldn't hold more than, the purse was so, just that belt was so, weak that if he hung himself, the thing would have broken really quickly and it would have fallen straight to the ground. It wouldn't have hung him, for a very long time. Yeah, you know what? They're saying that for a reason, and I'm going to explain that reason. The number one reason why it is almost impossible to believe that he did not hang himself is that he had a thing called lividity. Lividity is where the blood goes to the part of your body that is closest to the floor, okay? It's the gravity thing. Now, you see where he's laying on the floor here? The lividity on a body is lying on the floor here should be at where he's laying, on the front side of his legs and on his stomach, things like that. But it's not there. Where the lividity is on the bottom of his legs and on the bottom of his hands. That's what happens when you hang. The blood goes into your hands and it goes into your feet and then the bottom of your legs. And you have to hang there for a reasonable amount of time for it to, what they call, fix to some extent. Now, true fixing takes about 6 to 12 hours. What does that mean? If you're only hanging there for a little bit and the lividity is starting to get into your hands and feet, if you fall down like within an hour, or cut down, and you're laid on the floor, then the blood will move. It's not fixed yet. It will start going to where that gravity is. But he had it fixed. It was in his hands and feet. And he's lying on the floor, so you can tell that is not the position he was in when he died. It can't happen. He had to have died in this position, hanging. That's lividity. And so when they did the second autopsy in Canada, they came back and said, yeah, we have a problem with this. The lividity proves he was hanging. So, but they're trying to ignore that fact. So, because they're saying it's impossible for it to have happened. All right. Now, let me look at this point here. If this was impossible to happen, okay, one of the reasons I say there's blood, you see here, there's blood on the floor, okay? And I had a nice little picture of that, didn't I? Maybe I didn't. Nope, that's the, okay. No, that doesn't show it there. Okay, so you can see how the blood is kind of run into those, down those lines, right? Because that's where the grout is. You know what you don't see over there? You don't see a fight. Are you telling me think about this. She's in that corner somehow, because she's got to be like crushed against the wall. I don't even know how she gets in that corner. And then she cuts him. Blood starts pouring out of his neck onto the floor, right? While she's there. And he's, moving around. You would see blood spatter. You would see blood smeared on the floor as she's trying to control him, and as she's trying to get the handbag strap around his neck. She's going to be moving, and blood is going to be like mucked around in different places. And then she's going to have, after she leaves him, she's going to get up, and there's no blood drops across the floor. None of that. The blood is just in the grout underneath him. Now, why would that be? If there's a fight going on in the corner, and there's got to be some level of something happening there, even if he's not fighting, she's got to be trying to move around, move him and do things to him. And if she cuts him first on the back of the neck and then starts strangling him, she's going to get blood on her, and none of that is there. None of that is there in that corner. So that's garbage. Now, there is this little thing here, a little blood here. Well, it's much more likely, as they said, he got hit in the back of the head. He had damage. He had a cut in the back of his head when he was coming home that got the taxi seat bloody. Don't you think when he walked in the house, he wouldn't have picked up a rag and put it on the back of his neck, a washcloth, and put it on the back of his neck to stop some of that bleeding at some point? Okay, now, when he did that, I don't know. But I don't see a big, huge fight going on here in the corner, all right? And he couldn't get lividity unless he was hanging from here. Now, how could he get lividity and up there and not have the strap break? Okay? I have a theory on that, and I think it's one that hasn't even been looked at yet. All right, here's what I think is a good scenario. Okay, based on the evidence, I'm going to give you a scenario. Now, I'm not saying for sure this is exactly how it happened, but I want you to hear the scenario. All right, he comes home. She's done with him. She's like, and she goes upstairs. We don't know what he was doing at that point. We know he was bleeding, all right? Now, he's already drunk. Now, I'll just admit one thing. Yes, I have been drunk more than once in my life, maybe twice. I have been. There has been that moment. And what is the best place to lay when you are drunk? Can anybody tell me that? I want to hear this. What is the best place to lay when you are drunk? I want to hear. Somebody's got to come up with this. Because this is just real life, you know what I mean? There's just real life. And while I'm waiting for that, yes, this is true. He was bleeding in the taxi. He was hit by a rock and a bicycle. and the four guys, I don't know what else happened to him. That's one place. What is the most comfortable place? What is the most calming place? Near a toilet. Yeah, if you can make it there. That's true. I don't know where the bathroom was in this place. That's one place. What is he laying on? What is he laying on? No, he's not laying on a bed. He's on the floor. He's laying on the floor. That floor is made of tile. Now, I'm going to say there no, she's in the bed. He can't go there because she's there. So I don't know where he was going. The floor, when you're drunk off your butt and you're nauseous, dizzy, whatever, the cold tile floor is the most comfortable place to lay. It's preferable on a bathroom tile floor, but whatever reasons, he's lying there. Yes, it is. This is a very common place for people to lie down when they are drunk. It's the cool against the face and that kind of thing. Now, she goes upstairs and he's pretty drunk. I don't know if he even continued drinking. We don't know if he continued drinking some more. But anyway, he's obviously got some clothes off, right? He's not wearing his clothes anymore. So somewhere along the way, he got undressed, at least to this extent. All right. Who knows where he was staggering around, going to drink some more, and then it's possible he was bleeding. Maybe he started bleeding more heavily for whatever reasons. And it's possible he felt bad. He lays on the floor. And as he's laying on the floor, the blood is coming out and it's going into the grout. He's not dead yet. He's just laying there. And it's like laying on the floor going, oh my God, I feel like crap. And my life. And then after you're lying on the floor for a while, and you're bleeding, you think to yourself, oh my God, I gotta get up. You get up. You go get a towel, you put it against yourself, you stop the bleeding, you're standing around, you're going, my life sucks. You decide, that's it. And guys will do this. They will make a decision, I'm done. She's done with me, I'm done with everything. My life sucks. I'm never going to get any better. That's it. I'm going to go hang myself. So he finds something to hang himself with, which is not a lot, unless there's maybe a good robe tie, if you have one of those someplace, but that's probably up in the bedroom with her. He sees her purse is lying there. He takes the thing off. And he says to himself, look, there's a place to hang myself right here. So you can take that one of there's these, I don't know what kind of things there were to stand on, what kind of chairs, but let's say you take one of these chairs over. You stand on the chair. Now you stand there and you put the thing around. Now they're saying it wasn't that long too. Well, you don't need that much length if your head's in the right place and the bar is right there. You just put it around, you tie it to the bar, you're done. Now, what happens then, and this is what I think people may not realize, I review this quite often. Many times hanging victims are found with their knees bent and not hanging. So what happens is you can put a belt around your neck. People do this in the bathroom all the time. They go into the bathroom, they go to the towel bar, they put a belt around their neck, tie it to the towel bar, and they just bend their knees. And they wait now they do this sometimes for autoerotic sex too, which is why they're found naked doing that. And they die accidentally because the pressure against the arteries here, it prevents the blood from returning to your brain. So what happens is you pass out. Once you pass out, you can't stand back up again. So once you pass out, your body then sags, your knees are there under you, but you can't stand up. So you die because the blood never goes back to the brain. It's actually a very calming and peaceful death. It's not bad. People get a little happy high and then they do that. They're not choking, they're not feeling bad, they just pass out. Now, if he gets up on that chair and gets himself in that position and he stops for a minute to say, I don't know about this. Should I do it? Shouldn't I? Maybe he's just can't. He's trying to get himself ready, and he just lets his knees go, and he starts hanging, and then it starts pressing on his neck. But his feet are still on the chair, and he dies with his feet still on the chair. So now he's died of that exact thing. He's not, And at some point, then thing, the weight of it does finally get to it. It breaks, and when it breaks, the chair goes out from under him, and he falls into that position over here. And now he lands on the floor, and he's dead. Now somebody comes in, they might have pushed him a little bit, they might have moved him, who knows what they did, who knows who took pictures when, how, or when he fell, the way the chair flipped, his body just kind of went over like that instead of straight down. The flipping of the chair just catapulted him. I don't know, but it's far more likely that he did stand on a chair, hang himself, and perhaps the reason that he stayed there as long as he did with the weight on that belt was because the chair was holding him up for a reasonable period of that time, and finally the belt gave way. That would be my theory as to why he had lividity from hanging, why he didn't fall immediately, and why his body might have catapulted to this spot as opposed to going straight down, because maybe he didn't kick the chair. Maybe the chair just finally flew out from under him when the belt broke. So, things don't always go as people plan, especially when they're drunk off their butts. So there's all kinds of things that can happen here. I say that could have been a place he lied down in to begin with because he was drunk, and then he got up and did that to his head, and then he got the thing and went to the right there, and it's just in the same location. He falls relatively where the blood was. These are the kind of things that, are hard to predict. But what I can predict, or just say the evidence shows, the lividity is the key to this crime. And the lack of any sign here, there's no sign of a struggle here at all, or any extra person in here pushing. If she just cut him, you're not gonna see some bloody footprints. You're not gonna see like some of this smeared someplace. You're just gonna see nice little grout lines. No, that's a person who just collapsed there and laid there for a while. And they didn't have much movement until that stuff dried, and then the person might have gotten up. But I don't see how there's I can tell you this, I don't have a picture of him when they moved his body away. I'd like to see what's underneath his body, but I still don't see how she got into that corner, accomplished this crime, and there's no sign of a struggle there, or a sign of any other person moving around there disturbing anything. It just makes no sense. And there's no way he can have lividity lying in that position. He had to be hanging to have lividity. So, yes, he was suicidal. Yes, he could have committed suicide. And no, there is actually no evidence of homicide. So I don't know what they spent how much money they spent on all these people to say so. But I don't see any of it. He lost enough blood to feel lightheaded. He might have. I mean, he drank a lot. I don't know how much blood he actually lost. I mean, it does look like some on the floor, a reasonable amount on the floor. It's interesting because it is just nicely put there in a nice little pattern. So, but again, the lividity, can't get past the lividity, and the defense did not explain away the fact that he already had damage to the back of his head before he got home. That's proven by everybody around him. So there was no proof she ever did anything to him in the home. But there was proof that he had lacerations to the back of his head before he got home. Then the lividity they won't even talk about. They're just looking over. We're not going to discuss that. And then some of the stuff that they say, they hung up a dummy. They did 1,000 times and it wouldn't land the right way. I don't believe they did that 1,000 times, but that's silly. But when they did it 1,000 times, let's go back to that picture where they're claiming they hung this dummy up here. Let's say they did it. Okay. They hung this guy up and dropped him. Where the hell is the chair? Did they try a few different scenarios? Because that's what you should do. I would like to, if I were going to actually do this case for real, somebody's going to hire me, I'd like to try a few different scenarios with the chair. I would want to figure out where he hung himself from, which one of those, because there's different banister levels, banister kind of thing coming down. Was it the top one? Was it the middle one? Was it the bottom one? I don't know what he did. Did he actually kick the chair out and do a judicial hanging? Or not? There's no proof of that. And I don't know where the chair was, and I don't know, I would do all the tests, but they apparently did this 1,000 times, they said. And they only came up with one answer, because the body always did this. But that's because they're not taking into consideration anything else. And I think that's kind of a sham. You know what I mean? But that's how you prove something to the family that's going to civil court to make claims. And so you're being hired. And you're coming up with, I believe, whatever those people want you to come up with. And that really ticks me off. Well, that's a good point. Dummies have no skeletal infrastructure, so they'll never fall like a human body. Very interesting. Yeah. Yep. And lividity doesn't lie. Lividity is a very, very good piece of information. And I can't come up with any way the body laying on the ground can have lividity in the places it had it if he died on the ground. It just makes no sense. Yeah, just, Well, this is true. The family wanted his millions. They didn't want her to inherit. I get it, I mean, I get it. They might think she's a gold digger. She did walk away with a whole lot of money. You know what I mean? And she didn't share it with them, which could have been nice if she just split it down the middle and shared it. So I'm not saying what kind of person she is. I'm just saying I don't see any evidence that she killed him. It's just, I don't see it's there. Perhaps CTE contributed to his mental state. Gatti died before the groundbreaking research on this issue. Yeah, and he also took drugs, and he also drank, and he also was depressed. So, I mean, there was just guys, guys more than women will commit suicide like on a dime. You know what I mean? It's really weird. I've had a lot of cases where parents will say, my son was found hanging in the bathroom. I know he didn't do it. He was perfectly happy. And then you find out he just broke up with his girlfriend, and you're like, okay. And I've seen that happen quite often. I don't know. I always say, why didn't they just wait a few more days and they would have realized it would be stupid to kill yourself? But, some people just get real depressed, and then they just think that's it. They're just done. And they find some way out. And he definitely, the fact that they, saying he had no reason to kill himself is ridiculous, because everything was wrong with his life. And he'd already had issues with attempted suicide. Everything was wrong with his life. His life was in the toilet. It really was. It's not that he didn't have money. He just couldn't handle his life. And so no matter how much money you have, if you can't make things work, if you can't, be you're a complete mess. There's just nothing you can do with that money except buy more drugs and more alcohol and more women. But he obviously did want to have a family. He just couldn't seem to make it happen for himself because he was kind of a mess. You know what I mean? He might have been a funny guy. He might have been a loving guy in those moments. And she, and had a lot of good qualities about him. But just substance abuse just did him, just really did him in. So, so I think in the first case that I talked about today, Elize, I think that she did clearly commit a premeditated homicide. All the evidence points there, all of it. In this case, I don't see that there's evidence to point to a homicide, except, again, I always talk about the few things you can't explain. And the reason you can't explain them is because of things we just don't know. We don't know where the furniture actually was. We don't know who moved anything at the crime scene. We don't know whether when her story supposedly changed a little bit, maybe she was drunk herself, you know what I mean, and wasn't clearly thinking. Maybe she was in shock. Maybe she is a liar, Don't know. So there's those things that complicate the issue, but I still can't come up with a homicide with the lividity issues here and the lack of the struggle in the corner, and the fact that, yes, he was suicidal, and yes, he already had damage to the back of his head, and he was already bleeding. So, yeah, I can't go there. The comments under the Gatti video you linked to were almost 100% for her being guilty. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. Well, they're not going to like me if they come here then. Ooh, refreshing objective perspective. One of the things I point out in my show is that I just analyze the evidence and say what I think the evidence supports. I have no agendas. I don't have, and I don't do things just because it'll make people happy. I'll say the right thing and then I'll get 100,000 more subscribers, No, I usually say things and then I go, oh, I'm losing subscribers because I made somebody mad. But I'm looking at the evidence and it is what it is. Now, that's why she's free. So there's two countries that have ruled her. They have not ruled this a homicide. It's just the team for the Gatti family that is saying it's a homicide, and I just find their claims and methodology is atrocious. I'm sorry. I'm like, how much money you spend on these people to tell you this nonsense? And I just can't come up. I can't come up with how they came up with what they came up with, except for somebody's paying them a whole bunch of money and they're gonna look for a way to say it happened. They're not gonna like you at all. Oh God, oh, it's gonna be fun. I'll be blocking people. But yeah, and I'm always really, really bothered when somebody's. I'd like to read that very fat report that they put out and see whether it's all a bunch of, hogwash, whether it's all a bunch of fancy language and you use a lot of technical language, a lot of scientific language. You use a lot of psychological language. Use a lot of profiling language, whatever language. And by the time you finish reading a paragraph, you're like so bored, first of all, and secondly, you're like, huh? What are they saying? And it gets to the point where you start reading and you just start believing their conclusions because you simply don't know what they're getting at, but they're saying it in such a professional way, you think it must be true. And this really annoys me because I don't think things are as complicated as they would like to make them, because the more you make things complicated, the more you can convince people that this must be true without anybody understanding it. But I think you should be able to understand things. So where did the lividity come from, folks? I mean, that's straight up the first question I'd ask him. How does he get lividity in his hands and feet if he wasn't hanging? Where did it come from? And you're just going to ignore that and come up with, you can pretty much come up with all kinds of stuff if you want to, but the question is, does the evidence actually support that? Or are you just making it up? So anyway, this is a community with no agendas. Yeah, I'm trying to keep the agendas out of here. I really am, and stick with evidence and learning and educational stuff. Again, I'm not trying to keep Amanda Gatti free, and I'm not trying to, I don't have any issue about Mr. Gatti and think, well, he did, I have no reason to want him to be dead. You know what I mean? And I think the whole thing is very sad. But I just, that's what it is. You could do a trial run with a video saying she's guilty and see how many new subscribers you get. I could. That Diane Schuler case. I don't know that one. Classic example of a family hiring anyone who will appease their wishes. I have seen this in cases I've worked where I came back and said the person did commit suicide, and then that family got really angry with me, and they'd go all over the internet and say Pat Brown is a fraud and she's terrible, even if I put 200 hours pro bono into the case, and then they'd go find somebody else, and I'd see them jump. They would go shopping for somebody else who would then come in and finally say what they wanted to be said. And the question really comes down to is, does the person who's taking the case have an agenda? Like if they're, I don't know, they're super pro victim, then they're going to see the victim as a victim no matter what. Or if they're super pro anti-death penalty, they're going to make sure that they see this case as an anti-death penalty case. Or they're being paid and they're being told by the family, we think this person did it. Then they're being paid to look at that person, paid to clear that person from suicide or accidental death. So the defense team is hiring, the prosecution's hiring. And I always point this out in a courtroom. It is impossible. It is an absolute impossibility when the prosecution and the defense both have witnesses. We're talking about top witnesses, Dr. somebody who's famous, and this Dr. somebody who's famous. The defense and the prosecution put on two famous doctors of pathology or whatever, and they say the exact opposite. If it's a fact, if evidence is a fact, if what happened is a fact, how can you have two diametrically opposed conclusions? You can't. You can either have somebody isn't very good at what they're doing, or somebody just screwed up, or one of you is a big fat liar. One of you got paid a lot of money to put some doubt in there, to sway it enough to make it doubt. So they're saying here, well, we did this experiment and the guy always fell straight down. That's putting in doubt. Oh, this thing isn't strong enough to hold him. That's putting in doubt. But they're not exploring all the different issues and pointing out what the facts and truth are. They're ignoring that. They're just throwing in these things that they're being paid to throw in. I think anyone who thinks Pat's professional opinion can be swayed is in for losing their money. Yeah, they are. I've stuck with that since the day I did anything in this. I've just always said what I thought, and I can't say I probably didn't become I didn't get my own shows and a few other things for that reason. But I'm fortunate in that I find this is my thing about life. I always tell the truth, and if the truth ends up where I am unsuccessful in my career, unsuccessful on YouTube, unsuccessful wherever I'm unsuccessful, I always believe there's other things I can be successful at. And I'd rather be truthful and successful at something else than be a bought, stooge. So that's me. But then again, just me. I understand where people get swayed by money and fame and all that stuff, or the fact they want to, feed their families, and so I understand that a lot of things are pulls to go along with certain programs, but it just doesn't. Luckily for me, I haven't felt that need. So that's just me. Will Amber take the stand? I have not a clue. I have not been watching the trial. I don't watch these trials. I really don't. I don't have the time to do it. So all I know is Amber's a piece of work. That's all I can tell you. Elisa says, if she gave them money, it's a sign of guilt. If she doesn't, she's a gold digger. Well, that's a good point. That's an excellent point, Lisa. Yeah, that's true. You can't win. That's a no-win situation. It's funny because she may have, who knows, she could have gotten together with a lawyer and said to them, look, why don't I just give them half of the money? I don't really care. And the lawyer's like, oh, don't do that. And so she doesn't do that, and she looks bad. See, yeah, you're absolutely correct. That was an excellent point to make. Absolutely excellent. Sometimes you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. She has moved back to Montreal. She has a store now. She has her own store. She says she's very happy. She's raising her son. I don't know. So, but I don't see this as a homicide. And I don't think there's enough evidence, obviously, to ever prove it's a homicide. So, but sometimes you don't need to prove things. You just need to make points. Then you can get documentaries, and you can maybe win a civil suit, which doesn't require so much proof, and for whatever. Oh, that's very nice. Integrity is better than infamy. I prefer that. Yeah, but anyway, so those are the two cases from Brazil. I thought they were both really fascinating cases. And I just wish I was in Brazil because, what's really upsetting about this whole show, I just want to point out what's really, really upsetting, because I am let's see. Now take a look at these people. Why do I look like a ghost? They're all so nice and tan and nice. I did burn up yesterday. I sat outside yesterday and I got sunburned. So I tried to cover up the sunburned areas with some toning down makeup. But now I just look like I'm so super pale. So I wish I looked like them right now. I wish I was in Brazil, soaking up the sun and getting a nice tan and feeling all healthy instead of it's raining here and it's gray. and I look like the Walking Dead. So jealous. But then again, those guys are not alive and I am. So I guess I will be thankful for that. So, but what you never hear on Pat's video, I just feel that she, okay, wait a minute, I'm trying to think. I don't know what that means, Lisa. You have to finish the statement. I don't understand it. Okay, I'm a little dense right now. What do you mean by that? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's a good point, by the way. Lisa also says, maybe she didn't give them the money because they went for her from the get-go. Yeah, people are accusing her of being a murderer. You really kind of don't want to give them money. So that's it. Let me see if there's anything else here. One of our Brazilians happening, Pat. Dude might get me demonetized just for that. Tanning, let's say, tanning brings on wrinkles. I stay pale on purpose. I've given up those wrinkles, and no matter what I do, they just show up. So I just figure I'm doomed. So I'm not like, do I want to just enjoy the sun and fresh air, or do I want to, because I'm doomed anyway. Yeah. You go on facts and not feelings. Yeah, I mean, feelings don't belong in profiling and in crime scene analysis. They don't. And they, whether you like the victim, don't like the victim, like the perpetrator, don't like the perpetrator, or the accused perpetrator. It's not my place. I'm not their family. I'm not their friends. I'm not their community. I have no, to dislike or like. I mean, there's nothing there. There's no reason I should get involved with my emotions. If I were my family, it would be different, but they're not my family. And I don't allow myself to just get into that whole social, emotional thing, which you see all over the internet. It's like, oh my God, the little angel, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. Okay, I'll leave that for somebody else to be all emotional and gushy and stuff like that. I'm here to be professional. I'm here to look at things very objectively. Now, that doesn't mean I can't have subjectiveness here and there. Okay? I did the thing on the Adam Walsh the other day when I was reading that part from Adam Walsh saying when he found out his son had been murdered, what he thought, and I did tear up and all that. Because it's sad. I have emotions. I just try not to let those emotions get in the way of the actual profiling part of it, the analysis part of it. So I separate those two things in life, So, Lisa says, what I mean to say is that many commentators don't use evidence. They just say, I feel like, as if that's enough to convince anybody. Well, there's a reason they say, I feel like. And they do that for this reason. One, there are not profilers, and they're not they're not detectives. They're not homicide detectives or profilers. And so they're presenting, let's say they're presenting the story. Let's say I were, makeup person does makeup and murder, type of thing, like a number of ladies do. Well, if I get to the end of the story, I can't say this is what happened because I don't have the skills to say that. So I would say, I feel like she might be guilty. And that way you're allowing people to understand you're not professionally saying so. So I rule that as an okay thing to say, I feel, because at least it's honest. You're not saying this is what the evidence shows. You're saying, I just feel this way. So I'm good with that. Now, on occasion, I've seen people who are more professional say that, and then I get concerned because the professional shouldn't be saying, I feel. That should be out of their language completely, because then people do give you the credit of being a professional. So if the professional feels that way, then you think you should believe what the professional feels without actually hearing that damn evidence. That's why I have a problem with FBI profiling methodology. When they say, I feel that the guy could be, living with his mother and, has a dog and a knife, and you're like, do you have any evidence, or you just feel that way? That's, and sometimes I don't use the word feel. They'll use something like, the suspect may. Okay. So in other words, you also don't get in as much trouble, because if you can say feel and may, then you're not absolutely making a determination. So people can't say you're wrong. So sometimes when I've done things, I have said, the evidence to me supports this. Now, I'm not accusing the person of committing the crime. I'm simply saying this is what the evidence, in studying the evidence, I find that the evidence supports this. But if it turns out I'm wrong, I didn't say I feel and they let me off the hook, they're going to go, she was wrong. She didn't know what she was talking about. And they'd be right. In that case, profilers aren't always correct. Detectives aren't always correct. People make mistakes, I could analyze a crime incorrectly because either I don't have enough evidence or for whatever reasons, I screwed up. Didn't do a good job, happens. Molly is all about the pizza today. Okay, get the pizza, bring it home to people you trust. Eat the pizza together. Don't have the pizza leaving home and you don't. Or you're in the box and the pizza's in a box, Not good. Ah, yes. Gretchen was at the martial arts something. Cool. Bye, Anne. Have a good evening as well. Okay, so, wait a minute. Oh, yes, that's true. Molly says, we learned in the first of these two cases, never bring home the wrong pizza. That is correct, yeah. Red Rum says, Pat, you've taught me that psychopathic behavior in serial killers is very simple. There's no mind reading. Thank you. Like John D. would have us believe. They will because it's what floats their boats. Yeah, there's so much almost psychic nonsense going on there. It's just, it really sent the whole profile FBI. The FBI did great stuff in the beginning with the interviews of killers. They did a lot of studying and learning. That was all fantastic. Then they unfortunately catapulted that into creating profiles based on guesswork and feelings and, oh, I have been inside the mind of a killer, and statistics, and just putting out a whole, like, this is a list of things about the killer, and then, 90% is right because every killer has the same 90%, and then the other 10% is a good portion of the time no help at all, or even completely wrong. And I want profiling to get away from that FBI stuff that took over, and I want to go back to deductive profiling where we can explain things to you, and if we can't explain it, we're not telling the truth, because my mind is never melded with any damn killer. So anyway, that's it for today, everybody. Hope you enjoyed these two cases and learning about them. I thought they were very interesting, and I'll be back for the hangout during the week. And if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Don't forget there's a little $sign if you want to support the channel one time. And also if you want to join for the live shows, go down and you can participate in the live shows. These 6 shows a month I do on cases, also 4 hangouts a month, and the call-ins, our new call-ins, like a couple times a month. So they're all fun, and it's nice to have great people in the community. So bye everybody, and I will see you later this week. And I'm gonna, I had trouble with I'm having trouble with my screen today. I don't know what it is with me. Why am I having these problems? Oh my God. Okay, there it is. Okay. I just can't. Sometimes I put a lot of pictures in. Then when I go to end the show, the thing that I want to end the show with is so far down on this list that, you see, these are the things you don't see when you're on that side. On this side, it's a disaster. So, yeah, it's not a tape show, so all kinds of things just go wrong. Anyway, see you next time, guys.